I was 19, fresh out of a 3-year relationship with someone manipulative and emotionally draining. Strangely enough, I was still living with him, something I'd soon come to be thankful for. I wasn't in the right headspace, not for dating, not for anything, but I matched with a guy on Tinder. Let's call him Jack. I wasn't too focused on looks at that point. I just wanted a distraction. He lived a couple of hours away by train, and I invited him to a uni night out. Just pre-drinks and clubbing. Simple. He showed up and hung out with me and a friend before we headed to another place to meet more people. I was drinking straight gin, losing at drinking games, mixing alcohol like I didn't care what happened to me. Maybe I didn't. At the pub, Jack started buying drinks, strong ones, shots. Then he claimed his friends back home were also sending them. I didn't think twice. I wanted to feel free. I drank whatever he put in front of me. I left my drink unattended, more than once. I didn't realize then how dangerous that was. By 10 p.m., we moved to the club, and that's where everything shifted. I'd barely stepped inside when the room started spinning, my vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled out, alone. My friend found me curled up on the stairs outside, head between my knees, drenched in sweat. We found a safe bus nearby, a service with paramedics for drunk students. I got on. I threw up, again. Over 10 times. My skin had gone pale, my eyes empty. The paramedics were worried. I told them it was probably the alcohol. I didn't know any better. Not then. Much later, Jack appeared, out of nowhere. I barely remember how long I'd been on that bus. He kept insisting I should go home with him. I was still vomiting, still weak, but I forced myself to stand and left with him anyway. Earlier, I'd agreed he could crash at my flat. I warned him my ex lived there, just across the hall. When I told him, he looked uncomfortable, twitchy, like he hadn't expected that, like it ruined something for him. On the walk back, I was clinging to my friend for support, and that's when Jack said something I'll never forget. "You know, my friends say I give off serial killer vibes," he laughed, "but don't worry, I'm not." Me and my friend looked at each other, unnerved, but I laughed it off. That's what we're taught to do, right? Don't overreact. Don't be rude. Back at mine, my friend didn't want to leave, but her partner had arrived to pick her up. I told her I'd be fine. I wasn't. Instantly, Jack took my bed and tried to convince me to lie beside him. I said no. I was still nauseous and didn't want the bed moving. I chose the floor instead. At some point, I passed out. Hours later, I jolted awake. My head spun. My throat was dry. But more than that, I felt something. Someone was watching me. I rolled over. Jack wasn't in the bed. He was on the floor, facing me, eyes closed, perfectly still, inches from my face. He didn't move, not even when I sat up and drank some water, but something in me knew he was pretending to sleep, and I didn't dare confront him. I stayed awake the rest of the night, sick, terrified, drowsing off only in tiny fragments, my mind still echoing with that one twisted sentence. I give off serial killer vibes. At 6 a.m., I had enough. I got up, went to the bathroom. When I came back, Jack was standing, upright, in the middle of my room. His posture was off. He looked caught, like I wasn't supposed to see him like that. He asked if I was okay, if I needed anything. I lied, told him I was calling my dad, that he tracked my phone and might come over. That was the moment Jack seemed to remember my ex across the hall. His whole demeanor changed, nervous, anxious. Then he asked, "Will you see me again?" I said maybe. He left at 7 a.m., got on a train. I locked the door behind him. Then I blocked him everywhere. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. He found my friend on Snapchat, messaged her obsessively, asked about me, why I blocked him, begged to see me again. She finally told him to back off, that I didn't want anything to do with him. And then it stopped. But something still haunts me, even now, because the truth is, I think I was drugged, and if I hadn't thrown up everything I did, if my friend hadn't found me, I don't know what would have happened. I really don't. I moved out of that flat 2 weeks later. I never heard from Jack again. But for a long time, I was scared to go out, to trust anyone, to drink around strangers. I made mistakes after that too, but never like that night. That night, I survived. But I'll always wonder how close I came to not. Before I dive into the night that nearly broke my mind, there's something I need to explain. In the weeks leading up to this, there were strange things happening. Subtle at first, then alarming. Someone had been trying to get into my apartment, repeatedly. I'd come home to find doors unlocked, windows shifted. My roommate swore he felt like he was being watched. Then one day, I walked into my room in broad daylight and found a man standing in there. After that, I installed motion-triggered cameras at every entrance. I needed to know if someone was there when I got home, but nothing was ever caught on video. And then came her. I was heading back from a night out, tipsy and scrolling through Tinder. A message popped up from someone new. She was attractive, almost too attractive, and oddly eager to meet. I figured she had to be fake. But then she sent her location, just a 5-minute walk from my place. I didn't believe her, so I asked for a video call. She agreed, and to my surprise, she was real. Pretty, friendly, a bit high. She said she wanted company and a smoke. It sounded harmless. I told myself I deserved something good for once. So I took a shower, grabbed some liquor, and started walking to her place. As I neared the complex, I passed a narrow archway leading into a courtyard. That's when I saw him, a man, partially hidden, peering out. As I looked directly at him, he snapped back behind the corner, then stepped out again, pretending to be on his phone. Something felt off. I walked past, then stopped, turned around, walked back. As I passed again, he glanced out, saw me watching, and quickly disappeared around the corner. When I rounded the bend, he was walking slowly away, eyes fixed on his phone, never looking back. That's when I heard a voice behind me. It was her. She smiled, told me to come in. She looked like her photos, early 30s, calm, confident. I felt a wave of relief. Maybe I was just being paranoid. We climbed the stairs, but before we reached the top, she took a turn downward and said she had a basement apartment. We descended, and that relief I'd felt, it started to fade. The apartment was wrong. The living room was almost completely empty. Just a table, a couch, no decor, no warmth. It didn't look like anyone lived there, especially not a woman. Still, I told myself to stop being weird. She led me to her room. It was tiny, just a bed, one drawer, and a second door, closed, with a pool of water seeping out from underneath. I was about to ask about it when she grabbed me, kissed me, and pushed her hand down my pants. Within seconds, she was completely naked, pulling at my clothes, trying to get me undressed. It was too much, too fast, too aggressive. She pushed me onto the bed and started going down on me. I know, this sounds like a dream for most guys, but I wasn't aroused. I was scared, because it didn't feel like desire. It felt like distraction, like she was trying to get me vulnerable, off guard. Then I heard it. Movement. Soft, barely audible, but there, in the living room. The subtle rustle of clothes brushing against clothes. Footsteps. She whispered for me to take off my watch, said that it was catching her skin. I sat up,
glad for the break, and asked about the water under the door. She didn't even hesitate, just held up a bottle and said, "Yeah, I have water here," like she didn't hear what I was actually asking. I took a sip. That's when I heard the movement again. There was someone right outside that door. My lips started to tingle, burn. I felt sick, dizzy, not drunk, something else. I glanced at her. She was staring at me, way too calm, gently kissing my neck, whispering for me to get on top of her. I wanted to believe this was just a weird hookup, that I was overthinking, but something deep inside screamed at me, "You need to get out." I picked up my phone and opened WhatsApp, pretended to record a voice message. "Hey guys, I'm at 123 Street, basement apartment. Come pick me up right away. If I'm not outside, call the cops." She froze, eyes wide, completely speechless. Then she asked, "Why are you being so paranoid?" I looked her in the eye and said, "Who's outside?" She didn't deny it, just muttered, "It's my friend." No explanation. That was it. I started dressing. She sat on the bed, silent, typing on her phone. I opened the door to the living room. It was darker now, dim, shadowed. I scanned every corner, heart racing. No sign of anyone, but I knew someone had been in there. I rushed towards the stairs, fumbled with the door at the top. Panic set in. I couldn't open it. I felt someone behind me. It was her. She casually opened the door and smiled. I muttered, "Thanks," and left. Back at my building, I checked all my cameras. Nothing. But as I sat in my kitchen trying to breathe, my phone lit up. It was her. She sounded chill, sweet even, told me I was being dramatic, that I should come back. And for a moment, just a moment, I almost did. Until she said something that sent a chill down my spine. I told her my roommate was home, that he was calling the cops, that I had cameras everywhere, and she should stay the hell away. And she replied, "Your roommate's not home from work yet." Then she hung up. That confirmed it. Someone had been watching my apartment. They knew my schedule, my roommate's schedule, and that wasn't the only thing. The apartment next to mine, the only other one on the top floor, belonged to my landlord's brother. He's not well. Possibly has dementia. He's a hoarder. I hadn't seen him in a while, but I'd heard movement in there. It all clicked. They were getting in through his window, using his place as a base, maybe even staying there. I'd once left my Wi-Fi password on the wall. Maybe they were stealing that too. They knew when I was home, when I wasn't, and that night they tried to keep me away, lure me into a trap, a honey trap. I never called the police. I still question whether I imagined it all, but I know I didn't. Even now when I tell people, I see the skepticism in their eyes. But I don't care, because I'm alive. And I don't think I was ever meant to be.
This happened about 3 months ago, and while it might sound kinda tame to some people, it genuinely creeped me out to the point I still think about it sometimes. So, I was bored. Wanted to meet someone new and maybe try my luck in the dating game. Nothing serious, just to connect, chat, feel a spark maybe. I downloaded Tinder. Now, I've actually met some decent guys there before, but obviously it's Tinder. You're gonna run into your fair share of weirdos too. And this guy? He started out seeming pretty normal. We matched one afternoon. He lived really close, like 5 minutes away from my neighborhood. We spent the day chatting, and by the next day, he asked if I wanted to stop by his place to talk for a bit. I figured, why not? Broad daylight, nearby. Low risk, right? I got ready. Nothing too fancy, but I still made sure I looked good. That's just how I am, especially when meeting someone new. First impressions matter. As I approached his place, I saw him waiting at the front door, waving. And I instantly knew this wasn't going to work. Now, I know this might sound kind of tame to some people, but it genuinely creeped me out to the point I still think about it sometimes. So I was bored. Wanted to meet someone new and maybe try my luck in the dating game. Nothing serious, just to connect, chat, feel a spark maybe. I downloaded Tinder. Now, I've actually met some decent guys there before, but obviously it's Tinder. You're gonna run into your fair share of weirdos too. And this guy, he started out seeming pretty normal. We matched one afternoon. He lived really close, like 5 minutes away from my neighborhood. We spent the day chatting, and by the next day, he asked if I wanted to stop by his place to talk for a bit. I figured, why not? Broad daylight, nearby. Low risk, right? I got ready. Nothing too fancy, but I still made sure I looked good. That's just how I am, especially when meeting someone new. First impressions matter. As I approached his place, I saw him waiting at the front door, waving. And I instantly knew this wasn't going to work. Now, I know this might sound kind of superficial, but he just looked off, like he hadn't tried at all. He was wearing this faded, wrinkled shirt, old black jeans, ragged flip-flops, and this weird snapback with some ugly floral pattern. It was like he'd rolled out of bed and decided, good enough. I don't expect a runway model, but I do expect someone to try a little, especially if you've invited someone over for the first time. Still, I figured I'd give him a chance. Maybe the inside would be better than the outside. We sat out on his porch for a bit, just talking, but the conversation was so one-sided. He kept name-dropping people he knew like he was trying to impress me, but it just came across as insecure. Like, okay, you have friends. Great. What about you? At some point he said, "It's too hot out here. Let's go inside to my room." I hesitated, but I said sure, just to be polite. We walked into his bedroom and, instantly I was hit with this thick, stale smell of cigarettes. Like not someone who smokes casually, like someone who lives in a cigarette. He told me casually that he smoked in his room. I could see the yellowish film on the walls, the ashtray filled to the brim, the sheets that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. That, combined with the flip-flops and the bragging, I mentally checked out. I looked at my watch. It was 5:15 p.m. I gave myself 15 more minutes and decided I'd say I had to head home before it got dark. As we sat in his room, he tried to get me to sit closer. I kept my distance. Then he asked, "Do you usually have casual sex with people you meet?" I shook my head. "Do you casually make out then?" Another no. Then he said, "Can I kiss you?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "No." And just like that, the vibe went from awkward to uncomfortable. It finally hit 5:30, and I stood up. I should head home, I told him. Tried to keep it casual, like I wasn't already planning my fastest route out of there. But as I got to the door and reached for the handle, he stepped in front of me. He blocked the exit and smiled. "Can I get a hug before you go?" I didn't want to make things worse, so I gave him the quickest, most surface-level hug I could, but the second I leaned in, his arms snapped shut around me, tight, like a trap. I'm 170 centimeters. He must have been close to 190. His arms locked around me like steel cables, and I couldn't move. He held me there, then started kissing my cheek. Sloppy, wet, repetitive. I kept saying, "No, I need to go," and tried pulling back, but he wouldn't let go. His grip tightened. He kept kissing me like he was trying to erase the word no from the air. It was disgusting. It made my skin crawl. I can still feel those unwanted kisses on my cheek like a stain. I wanted to scrub my face raw. Finally, with enough squirming and pushing, I managed to break free. He didn't fight it, just stepped back and opened the door like nothing happened. I walked out of there in silence, practically speed walked home, didn't look back. For the next 3 days, he kept messaging me. "Had fun. You should come back. We really clicked." I didn't reply.
not once. It still freaks me out how quickly he switched, how casual he was about forcing a physical interaction I clearly didn't want, and how he acted like that was just normal. And what scares me the most is, what if I hadn't pushed hard enough? What if I had frozen up? It wasn't just a bad date. It was a warning. So, to any guys out there, no means no. Not maybe, not convince me, just no. And if someone's keeping their distance, that's not an invitation, that's a boundary. Respect it.